The first light of dawn spilled across the golden plains of the Masai Mara, washing the landscape in hues of ochre and rose. The tall grasses, damp with dew, shimmered like a sea of silver under the tender eye of the rising sun. A light breeze stirred the air, carrying with it the earthy scent of wild basil and the distant sound of hooves on dry soil. A young elephant calf named Tembo blinked open his sleepy eyes. His mother, Shira, nudged him gently with her trunk. "Wake up, little one," she said in the low, rumbling tone only elephants understood. "We must begin our journey before the sun climbs too high." Tembo stretched his legs awkwardly, ears flapping. "Are we moving again, Mama?" "Yes," Shira replied. "The rains are moving north. The grass here grows brittle. We must follow the green." Tembo had heard the older bulls talk about the northern grasslands, lush, green, and full of fresh water holes. But to him, they were no more real than the stories the wind whispered through the acacia trees. Nearby, the rest of the herd stirred. Massive bodies shifted through the grass with surprising grace. The matriarch, Bibi, stood at the center like a living monument, her tusks long and cracked with age. She lifted her trunk and let out a low rumble that rippled through the ground. The herd responded in kind. "Stay close, Tembo," Shira reminded him as they fell into formation behind Bibi. "There are dangers in the long walk. Lions, traps, rivers swollen with rain." Tembo's ears twitched. "Will we see the cheetahs again? Like last moon?" Shira hesitated. "Perhaps, but cheetahs hunt alone. They do not trouble elephants." They began their march, the earth trembling beneath their feet. Overhead, vultures traced slow spirals in the sky, watching and waiting. To the west, a pride of lions lay hidden in the tall grass, their golden coats nearly indistinguishable from the savanna itself. One of them, a young lioness named Nia, lifted her head and watched the herd pass. "We won't be eating elephant today," she muttered. Beside her, the pride's leader, Baraka, narrowed his amber eyes. "No, but that calf will return. And when he does, he'll be slower, fatter, softer." Tembo trotted to keep up with the herd, his feet sinking into the soft soil where the dew hadn't yet burned off. Birds darted overhead, hornbills, bee-eaters, and the occasional fish eagle calling from high in the thermals. Insects buzzed like a natural chorus, hidden among the stalks. "Mama," Tembo asked, his voice curious, "why do the lions watch us if they never chase?" Shira replied without turning. "They remember. Long ago, they may have tried to take one of us. But elephants do not forget. Nor do we forgive. Did we fight them? We crushed them," came Bibi's voice from ahead. Her tone was calm, but firm. "Once, long ago, a lioness grew bold and lunged at a calf. She did not live to tell the tale." Tembo's eyes widened. "What happened?" Bibi slowed slightly so he could catch up beside her. "We surrounded her. She was fierce, yes, but not enough. We are not prey. We are the memory of the land. Lions may rule the shadows, but we rule the earth." A hush followed. Even the wind paused, as if in respect. Far ahead, the land began to rise into small ridges. Zebras grazed along the slopes in striped masses, their braying laughter cutting through the quiet. Giraffes moved like ghosts beyond a distant thicket of umbrella acacia, heads swaying gently as they plucked tender leaves with purple tongues. Tembo saw them and brightened. "Can we say hello to the giraffes?" "Another time," Shira said softly. "We still have far to walk." Unseen in the grass, a pair of golden eyes tracked the herd. Nia, the young lioness, crept closer to the edge of the pride's territory. She wasn't hunting, just watching, learning. A rustle to her left signaled Baraka's approach. "Curious, aren't you?" Nia nodded without looking at him. "That calf, he's bold." Baraka's tail flicked. "Bold calves make the tastiest mistakes." Nia's ears flattened. "I don't want to kill him. I just want to know what it's like to follow a herd, to walk with something that doesn't fear you." Baraka growled low. "We are lions, Nia. We are not meant to admire our meals." But Nia wasn't so sure. The midday sun was merciless, glaring down like an unblinking eye. The heat shimmered above the plains, bending the air and blurring the horizon into wavering mirages. Even the flies buzzed slower now, drunk on warmth and blood. Tembo's feet ached, but he didn't complain. Shira moved beside him, her presence steady, protective. They paused beneath a thorn tree, the only shade for miles. The herd gathered around, forming a quiet circle. Bibi stepped into the center. "We rest here, just long enough for the young to drink." The elephants took turns sipping from a shallow muddy pan that had once been a watering hole. Now it was no more than a puddle, but precious all the same. Tembo slurped eagerly. The water was warm, bitter with minerals, but refreshing. As he drank, a small brown bird flitted to his side. An oxpecker chirped and landed on his back. "Ow!" Tembo squeaked. "What's that?" Shira chuckled. "Let it be. It's cleaning your skin." "Why does it bite?" "It's picking off ticks. You'll thank it later." The oxpecker chirped indignantly as if in agreement and fluffed its feathers before hopping to Shira's side. Insects rattled in the grass. A breeze rolled through, thick with dust. And then came the sound that made every elephant pause. A low, distant rumble. Not from any throat, but from the earth itself. "Thunder. The rains," Bibi murmured. "Far to the north." "Will they reach us?" one of the younger bulls asked. "Not yet, but soon." Tembo looked at the clouds on the horizon, towering and dark, flashing silver with lightning. "They look angry," he whispered. "Their life," Shira replied. "In this land, life always looks angry." Meanwhile, across the plain, Nia padded back into the pride's den. A cluster of sun-bleached rocks overgrown with dry brush. Cubs tumbled in the shade. A lioness lifted her head to greet her. "You smell like elephant." Nia flopped onto her side. "I was watching the herd." "Still dreaming?" the lioness asked, amused. Nia's reply was soft. "Not dreaming, thinking." Baraka watched them from a distance, tail twitching, his mind brooding. He had seen that look in younger lions before, the look that came before disobedience. And disobedience often ended in bone and dust. By late afternoon, the sun dipped low enough to cast long shadows across the savannah. The herd resumed its march, their silhouettes stretched over the grass like ancient spirits. Each step was careful, deliberate, navigating thorny patches and sun-baked earth cracked into webs of dry veins. Tembo trudged beside Shira, ears drooping slightly. "Mama, will we sleep soon?" "Soon," she said gently. "There's a fig tree not far from here. If the hyenas haven't taken it, we'll rest there tonight." Ahead, Bibi slowed as the land sloped downward into a shallow ravine. There, an enormous baobab stood gnarled and proud, its trunk split by lightning in seasons past. Around it, shade pooled in cool silence. The herd murmured in relief. As they settled near the baobab, Tembo wandered to the base of the broken trunk. Scars lined the bark, deep claw marks, some old, some fresh. He reached out his trunk and traced them. "What made these?" he asked. Shira joined him, her eyes narrowing. "Leopards. They sleep in the branches by day." Tembo looked up, alarmed. "Is there one now?" "No," Shira assured him. "They're silent, but we would hear their breath if they were close." Still, Tembo stayed near the others as they lay down for the night. The elders stood on the perimeter, forming a wall of vigilance. Somewhere beyond, hyenas hooped and laughed, a sound that prickled the skin. Nia heard that same sound as she crept away from the pride. She had waited until the others dozed in the heat, then slipped between the bushes. The night was falling fast, and the air was cooler. Her paws stirred the grass without a sound. She followed the herd's scent trail, broad and earthy, a blend of crushed plants, dust, and wet dung. It led her to the ridge above the ravine. There, she saw them again. The elephants huddled under the baobab, great shadows breathing in silence. And the calf Tembo stood at the edge, trunk swaying, ears perked toward the stars. A part of her wanted to leap down to meet him face to face, but she didn't move. Instead, she watched from afar. Something stirred in her, a feeling strange and unwelcome, curiosity. That night, the wind changed. It arrived with a hush and a chill, rustling through the tall grass like a secret whispered by unseen mouths. The elephants stirred restlessly. Bibi lifted her trunk and tasted the air. "Something's coming," she murmured. Shira, ever alert, scanned the horizon. "Rain." "No," Bibi said. "Something else." Tembo was already awake. He hadn't slept well. Strange dreams had come to him, visions of cracked earth swallowing herds whole, of lions walking on two legs, speaking like elephants. He shook his head, trying to scatter the thoughts. Shira noticed. "You dreamed again." He nodded. "Tell me." Tembo hesitated. "I dreamed of the lioness, the one with the soft eyes." Shira's brow furrowed. "You saw her again?" "Yes, but she didn't chase me. She watched." Shira remained quiet for a long moment. Then, "Sometimes the land speaks to young ones in dreams. It shows us truths or warnings, or both." Tembo looked up at the stars. "Can lions ever be our friends?" Shira didn't answer right away. She turned toward Bibi, who was conferring with two of the elder cows near the broken tree. Then softly, she said, "Not in this world." On the ridge above, Nia lay crouched beneath a bush, watching the herd. The stars blinked overhead, and the wind tugged at her whiskers. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since the day before, but she couldn't tear her eyes away from the elephants. She told herself she was studying them, learning their rhythms, their reactions. But deep down, she knew it wasn't just strategy. It was wonder, the way they protected one another, the way they mourned their dead. It was something rare among the beasts of the savannah. A dry twig snapped behind her. She turned, fangs bared, but relaxed when she saw who it was. Ajani, her brother. "You always vanish like a ghost," he muttered. "You smell like them." "I was watching," Nia said. Ajani narrowed his eyes. "Baraka won't like this. Let him not like it." Ajani growled low. "You forget who saved us when the drought came. You forget who tore the warthog from the earth with one bite. He is our king. And yet," she whispered, "he's forgotten how to see." Ajani said nothing more. He turned and vanished into the grass. Nia stayed. And down below, the herd braced against the growing wind, unaware that the balance of nature was beginning to shift. Morning came slowly, smeared in gray clouds and streaks of pale gold. The wind had not relented, and with it came a change in the sounds of the savannah. Less birdsong, more silence. A quiet tension hung in the air, like the breath of a predator just before the pounce. Bibi stood tall at the edge of the herd. Her ears moved independently, catching every rustle, every shift. "We move now," she said. "There is danger near." Tembo blinked sleep from his eyes. "But I'm still tired." "There will be time for rest in safer places," Shira replied, already nudging him into step. "Come." The elephants began to move, more quickly than usual, their pace urgent but not panicked. Dust rose around their feet, catching the low light. Ahead, the land stretched flat and treeless. A risky crossing, but necessary. Halfway through the plain, Bibi paused. Insects stilled. A ripple moved through the grass to the east. Shira immediately swung her trunk wide and gave a warning rumble. "To the left now." The herd shifted instinctively, and then, from the grass, they emerged. A pack of wild dogs, painted wolves, lean and streaked with black and ochre. Their eyes gleamed with hunger, and they fanned out like trained dancers, cutting off the herd's original path. Tembo froze. "Don't stop," Shira cried. "Move." Tembo ran, legs awkward, hoofs thudding. A snarl erupted behind him. One of the dogs darted closer, teeth bared, but Shira charged, trumpeting. Her tusks caught air, and the dog skittered away. Bibi turned and stood her ground at the herd's flank. "Circle tight," she bellowed. The herd obeyed, forming a living wall around the young and the weak. Tembo found himself surrounded by warm, massive bodies, trembling but safe. For now. The wild dogs paced outside the wall, snapping, yipping, testing for cracks. They were clever, fast, but they were not foolish. After a tense standoff, they pulled away, disappearing into the grass. But the threat was clear. The savannah was growing desperate. Shira leaned down to Tembo. "This is the season when hunters grow hungry, when rules blur, when the brave must become wise." Tembo nodded, still shaking. High above them on the ridge, Nia had watched it all. And something deep within her, something she didn't yet understand, ached when the calf cried out. The herd moved on without pause, their spirits shaken but their pace relentless. The flat plain gave way to a dried-out riverbed, its cracked floor littered with bones. Zebra, impala, buffalo. Death had passed through here many times. Tembo stepped gingerly between scattered ribs and hollow skulls. "Mama," he whispered, "why do the bones stay here?" Shira's voice was quiet. "Because the wind forgets them, and we do not." But who were they? Others, travelers. Some we knew, some we did not. But all were part of the savannah. Tembo swallowed hard. "Will our bones be here one day? Not if we listen, not if we endure." As they descended into the ravine, the temperature dropped slightly, and for a moment, the weight of the day's journey seemed lighter. Bibi led them to the river's edge, where a trickle of water still flowed cool, hidden beneath tall reeds. The elephants drank in silence. Tembo raised his trunk to the breeze. "Rain," he said, surprised. Shira smiled faintly. "You're learning." Above them, clouds darkened. Lightning forked across the horizon. They didn't know it yet, but this was the start of the great turning. The seasonal shift that brought storms, migrations, and sometimes war. Elsewhere, Nia returned to the pride den. She padded in quietly, her fur dust-streaked and her eyes distant. Baraka was waiting. "You were watching them again," he said. It wasn't a question. "I was learning," Nia replied. Baraka bared his teeth. "You forget your place." "No," she said softly. "I'm beginning to see it." He stood, tail twitching. "Be careful, Nia. There are laws in the grass. Break them and you become food." "I don't fear you," she said, locking eyes with him. "You should," he growled, stepping closer. The rest of the pride fell silent. Tension crackled like distant thunder. But Baraka didn't strike. Not yet. Instead, he turned and walked away, leaving a silence behind that was louder than any roar. That night, the herd found shelter beneath a rocky escarpment. Shira curled her trunk around Tembo as he drifted to sleep. And high on the rocks above, hidden in the night, Nia watched once more, drawn not by hunger, but by a question she couldn't yet name. Rain came with a scream. It didn't fall gently, no, the sky opened in fury. Lightning fractured the heavens, illuminating the savannah in stuttering flashes. Thunder followed close behind, pounding like drums in the bones of every living thing. The herd huddled beneath the rocks. Rain hammered the ground, turning dust into mud, carving sudden streams through the dry soil. The air smelled of iron and wet grass. Tembo clung to Shira's side, his small body pressed tight against hers. "Is the sky angry?" he whimpered. Shira wrapped her trunk around him. "No, it's not anger. It's remembering." Tembo looked up, confused. "Remembering what?" "That life must come from somewhere, even pain." Bibi stood at the front of the herd, facing the storm without flinching. Her great ears were wide, catching every rumble. Water poured from her back, but she didn't move. Her presence was a lighthouse in the chaos. When the wind screamed louder, Bibi let out a deep rumble, a call that echoed beyond sound, through the soil, through history. The herd answered in unison, their voices like thunder of their own. Together they stood. Miles away, Nia crouched beneath a thorn tree, soaked to the skin. The storm lashed her face, but she remained still, staring through the downpour. She could smell the elephants on the wind. She had dreamed of them again, only this time she was walking among them. Tembo had spoken in a voice clear as a lion's. He said, "You don't have to hunt us." Why was this happening? She had known her role from birth. Predator, killer, queen of the land. But something inside her, a whisper, a wrongness, or perhaps a rightness long buried, was cracking open like dry earth under rain. By morning, the storm passed. The land was reborn, clean, wild, green. Tiny flowers bloomed where none had been before. Frogs sang in the sudden puddles. The air buzzed with insect life. Tembo stepped out from beneath the escarpment. He sniffed the wet air and smiled. "Mama," he said, "it smells like the world woke up." Shira nodded, her eyes soft. "It has." And far beyond, unseen but never far, Nia followed still, caught between two worlds, hunting something she had no name for. The savannah transformed overnight. Where once lay a brittle carpet of yellow grass now bloomed shoots of green, daring and bright. Birds returned in waves, filling the sky with flutters and song. Butterflies danced in lazy spirals above damp earth, and termites rose in towers from their mounds, rebuilding what the storm had claimed. The elephants welcomed the change with cautious joy. Tembo tromped ahead of the herd, splashing in puddles, marveling at how the mud stuck to his legs. "Careful," Shira warned. "Where there is water, there are footprints. And where there are footprints, others follow." Tembo looked at his own muddy tracks. Who would follow us? Shira's eyes drifted to the horizon. Those who wait, those who hide. This is their season too. But the herd needed to move. The ground would grow green for only a short time, and the waterholes must be found before the heat returned. So they marched, across sodden ridges and down into valleys streaked with wildflowers. Herds of wildebeest now dotted the horizon, snorting and tossing their heads. The migration had begun. Tembo watched them pass, awed. They look like thunder when they run. Bibi smiled faintly, and foolish when they don't. Stay clear of their stampede. The herd crossed a hill scarred by old fire. Blackened trees stood like bones against the sky. Ash mixed with the green shoots, a reminder of how death and rebirth walked hand in hand here. At the edge of the burn, Tembo paused. A strange scent tugged at his senses. Faint, warm, wild. Lion. He didn't panic. Not this time. He looked around, searching. High above, hidden among the rocks, Nia watched him. Not with hunger, not with malice, with longing. Back at the pride's den, Baraka paced. He could feel something shifting. The lions had food. The migration brought weak calves and stragglers, but he sensed rebellion in the air. Whispers, eyes that lingered too long on Nia, hearts that beat too quick when she returned from her solitary hunts. "She walks in places we do not rule," he snarled to Ajani. "She forgets who we are." Ajani didn't reply. Baraka's voice grew low. "If she forgets, she will be reminded." Nightfall cloaked the land in velvet shadows. The stars returned, uncountable and bright, spilling their light across the soaked earth like scattered seeds. Crickets chirped in chorus, and the low grunts of buffalo echoed far across the plains. The elephant herd made camp on a soft rise, ringed by thornbush. It wasn't the best shelter, but it would do. The wind had died, leaving the air thick and warm. Tembo lay beside Shira, blinking up at the stars. "Mama," he whispered, "do lions ever get lonely?" Shira looked at him, surprised. "Why do you ask that?" "I just wonder," he said. "If being a lion means being alone." Shira was quiet for a while. Then she said, "Lions have their prides. They are not alone. But what if a lion doesn't want to be like the others?" Shira brushed her trunk gently across his back. "Then they must choose. Follow the path or make a new one. But all paths cost something." Tembo didn't respond. His eyes had already drifted shut, but his mind kept wandering. Across the savannah, Nia stood at the edge of a shallow pool, staring at her reflection. Her face looked different in the water. sharper, sadder. Behind her, a Johnny appeared, silent as dusk. "You saw them again," he said. She didn't lie. "Yes." Ajani's eyes were shadowed. "Baraka plans to test you. He wants you to hunt with him tomorrow. A zebra calf." Nia nodded. "He wants to see where your loyalties lie." "I know." Ajani took a step closer. "He's afraid of you." "No," Nia said. "He's afraid of change." They stood in silence as frogs croaked around them. Then Nia whispered, "Do you ever wonder if we're more than hunters?" Ajani blinked. "No, I do," she said. "I wonder if there's another way." Ajani frowned. "That kind of thinking, it gets lions killed." Nia turned to him. "Or it gets them remembered." At dawn, as the first bird stirred, Tembo woke with a start. He dreamed again. Not of running or fighting, but of standing beside the lioness, shoulder to shoulder, looking out over the savannah. Not enemies, not prey and predator. Something else, something new. The sun rose hard and golden. Shadows were short. The air shimmered with heat already rising. Baraka crouched low in the brush beside Nia and Ajani. Before them, a herd of zebra grazed lazily, unaware of the eyes locked onto them. "There," Baraka whispered, motioning to a striped calf trailing near the edge. "We take that one." Nia's muscles tensed. Her breath slowed. She could feel the grass pressing against her fur, the vibrations of hooves through the soil, the rhythm of the calf's movements, careless, joyful. Baraka crept forward. Ajani hesitated. So did Nia. Then came the charge. Baraka burst from the grass, a roar tearing from his chest. The zebras screamed and scattered. Nia leapt after him, reflex, not desire. But she veered off. Her paws struck earth, not flesh. Baraka tackled the calf and brought it down in a flurry of blood and dust. Cried once. When it ended, Baraka rose, panting, red-toothed. Nia stood still. "You didn't help," he growled. "I didn't stop you," she replied evenly. Ajani said nothing. Baraka stepped toward her. "You run with us, or you run alone." "I already do," Nia said, then turned and vanished into the grass. The elephant herd reached a wide salt flat, white, cracked, endless. Even birds gave it wide berth. Bibi guided them along its edge, careful not to cross. "It's cursed ground," she said. "Many hooves have vanished here." Tembo listened, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He felt watched, not with hunger, but understanding. That night, as they camped beside a fever tree grove, Shira let Tembo wander a little. The moonlight was kind. He heard a soft rustle in the brush. Then a voice, not growl, not trumpet. A whisper. "Tembo." He froze. From the shadows stepped Nia. His heart hammered, but she didn't come closer. She stood where the light ended. "You're not afraid of me," she said. "No," Tembo replied. "You don't want to hurt us." "I never did." He took a step closer. "Then why follow?" "Because I had to know. If there was more than hunger. If something new could begin." Tembo looked into her eyes, full of questions, full of silence. "You're not like them." Nia's voice shook. "And you're not like the others either." Then she turned and disappeared into the night, leaving only her scent on the wind. Baraka was done waiting. "She is diseased," he told the pride. "Her mind has gone soft." "No," Ajani muttered. "It's gone wide." Baraka struck him with a clawed paw. "She brings danger. She watches prey and forgets her nature. Tonight we hunt her." But Nia was already gone. She fled across the plains, her lungs burning, her legs aching. The lions would come. She had broken the unspoken law, not to spare prey, not to feel. The wind shifted and carried smoke, fire. From the east, flames rolled across dry hills. A spark from a fallen branch, a strike of lightning, a careless baboon. No one knew, but the fire was real and it was fast. Birds screamed, antelope stampeded, and in the middle of it all, the elephant herd smelled the smoke. "We move now," Bibi trumpeted, but it was too late. Fire had already begun to curl around the base of the grove. Then from the brush came a familiar form, lean, feline, limping from a bite to her shoulder. "Nia." She locked eyes with Tembo. "You must go east," she panted. "I came around the fire. That's the way out." Shira raised her trunk. "Why warn us?" "Because I remember," Nia said, barely able to stand. "I remember what mercy looks like." The herd moved with urgency. Tembo walked beside Nia, who limped but did not stop. The fire chased them. Smoke made the sky bleed red. Ash fell like snow. Bibi and the elder bulls formed a line to knock down brush and trees, clearing a path. Shira and the others herded the calves tight. Tembo shouted over the roar. "We're almost there." Nia stumbled. Tembo braced her with his shoulder. Behind them, Baraka emerged from the dark, fury in his eyes. He had tracked her through the blaze. "You side with them now?" he roared. Nia stood tall. "No, I side with life." Baraka lunged, but Shira, faster than fire, charged. Her tusks struck the lion squarely and sent him tumbling. He rose, bleeding, and vanished into the flames. The herd didn't wait. They pushed through the smoke, through blistering heat, through falling branches, and finally broke into the open. Rain came again, as if summoned by the earth's final breath. Ash turned to mud, and the fire died. Days passed. The herd moved slowly now toward a quiet place, a hidden valley where the grass was green and the streams sang. Nia walked among them, not hunted, not hunting, accepted. At first the calves were wary, but Tembo stayed by her side, and so they followed. One day, Bibi approached her. "You are strange among us. I know, but you carry truth in your eyes, and fire in your memory." Shira said softly, "We have no law for this, but the land does, and it speaks your name now." Nia bowed her head, not as prey, not as queen, but as one who had crossed the line between worlds and lived. Tembo and Nia stood on a hill at sunset, the savanna stretching wide below them. Herds grazed, birds wheeled. The fire was gone, but its lesson remained. "What now?" Nia asked. Tembo smiled. "Now we walk together." They began down the hill. One elephant, one lion, no longer old enemies, but the first steps of something new.